Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah. I am super excited to be here with my guest, Victoria Pippo. She
Yes.
is amazing. I love her spirit and her energy, and you're going to love her too. So she's going to tell you all about who she is and what it is that she can do for you. So, Victoria, take it away.
Oh, Tammy, we have just had, for your listeners who are tuning in, we have just had the best conversation. It has now been 40 minutes, and we forgot that we had a recording to do. So now we're here, and we're hoping that we can bring this energy of connection into this space for you all because we've just honestly had such a great time. We have collapsed time. So thank you for the introduction. I am Victoria Pippo, and my work in the world is to be a global energy healer and psychic development teacher in business. In short, that is what I do. I help extraordinary, gifted, powerful souls and star seeds, people on their awakening journey who want to run a business, who want to lead in their mission. I help them get on the right path through energy healing, and then I help them develop their psychic gifts through my
Mm.
signature program, the Sovereign Healer School.
So nice. That is so beautiful. We need people like you. And
Mm.
I feel fortunate that you have graced my stage, and I'm so appreciative.
Oh, I feel the same way. I think you kind of made my day. Like the vibe is it's just right. I hope people are feeling this. It's really nice to be able to share time with someone who is doing this work and understands each
Yeah.
other in a way that we don't really need to explain too much. We just get each
Yeah.
other. And I feel that with you.
It's so powerful. So let's get into it. How did you start doing this powerful work? I mean, what was your life like prior to this?
So prior to this, I was a child performer. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
For those of you who are watching on YouTube, does my face give Disney princess or
Yes,
what?
it does.
Thank you. On an episode, someone asked me to sing Disney songs. So I just want you to know
So nice.
that is something I've done on an episode before. And so I've been a child performer since the age of 7. I was in singing competitions and small community theater from a very young age. I believe that my mom knew that there was something different about me.
Yes.
And really passionate, creative kids usually go into the arts. Not all the time, but if a parent is supportive of whatever that energy is, that life force energy, that imagination, I hope that they would put their child in art. And I was very blessed that my mom did that for me. So I was a child performer into an adolescent performer, into a teenage performer, into an adult performer. My entire life, I was dedicated to being an actor, being a performer, being a singer, being a musical theater artist.
Nice.
Yeah, so when I was about 14, I moved away to a private boarding arts school to pursue acting. That was amazing. I had an extraordinary time developing the craft of being an actor. And then I got accepted to a conservatory in Cleveland, Ohio to pursue musical theater. And so I got my Bachelor of Music after 4 years in musical theater and moved to New York City.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, what else would you do? Either New York or California.
Yeah, it's honestly at the time I didn't know that, Vancouver was, bumping with film. Even at that time it wasn't necessarily my niche, but I knew that it was New York or nothing for me. You want Broadway, you go to New York, right?
Yeah.
So I've always had that desire, hunger, also this feeling of doing different than what society conditioned me to do. And art was kind of that thing that
Ooh,
allowed me to express that, but also squeeze in what society would understand.
yes.
So I moved to New York and I booked 2 jobs at the same time. I booked playing Elsa, portraying Elsa on the Disney cruise ship, and a rock star in a rock national tour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was fun. It was fun to be able to decide what felt right. And it was such a gift that God was like, hey, you've been through a lot. A lot of people have tried to tell you who you are and put you into a box. Here are two polar opposites. And I want you to know that I see you in that.
Mm.
And so I chose Elsa. And I had the honor of singing Let It Go and portraying an extraordinary classic princess for
That's
9 months.
my favorite. Let it go. It was one
I
of
know,
my favorites.
honestly, one of the most, in my opinion, one of the more challenging musical theater songs to sing because it requires stamina. And actually, the beginning is quite much harder than the end. If you set yourself up in the beginning with the right frame, the right breath, then by
Yeah.
the time the end hits, you're just running on momentum and letting the
Yeah.
chords and the melody take you. But if you put too much energy in the beginning, then you'll burn out by the time you get to the end.
Yeah.
And so it kind of felt like the the story of my life
Like a
of
marathon.
totally to our point earlier that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And
Yeah.
so I portrayed Elsa. And then when I completed my contract early 2019, about 6 months later, I went back for my second contract with the Disney company to portray Mary Poppins, which
Oh,
again
wow.
was so much fun. And that was the time that I had had my dark night of the soul or my spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
In short, what ended up happening was a catastrophe of relational heartbreak, which then made me question who I was, why I was the common denominator, realizing that my parents' divorce that they had went through multiple times in my childhood with different partners created this abandonment wound, created this perpetuation of trying to find love but also not feeling worthy of love. And
Yeah.
that started the catalyst of why am I creating the life that I am creating? Am I participatory in it? Of course, the answer is yes. And then what am I going to do about it?
Yes. Oh my God. That's such a powerful, powerful place to be.
Mm-hmm. 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 And my life was in a lot of ways the representation of what it looks like to have the odds stacked against you and pushing through the soil, whether it was growing up in a small town and not growing up wealthy, but growing up in a predominantly wealthy neighborhood. I was the kid that would go to the yard sales where the rich kids were selling their Abercrombie and Hollister and try to get the $2, $3 shirt because that's all I could afford, but I wanted to fit in. I
Yeah.
remember the day my mom said, "We will always be poor, but we will never look it." And so subconsciously, I always had this
I
story.
love that.
You know it. It's like I'm wearing the Hollister, I'm wearing the Puma, I'm wearing the cool things, but deep down, my mom is in the dean's office praying to the dean that I get through my education. It was like my entire, I guess in many ways, my entire life was preparing me to be the ultra entrepreneur. The
Yeah.
one who was like, "Oh, there's the pressure. Know her well. Oh, I got to push through the soil and keep going. Great. Oh, everybody tells me that I'm not going to be successful, not getting the engagement, the growth. Fine. Let me turn this water to wine. And
Yes.
so that was
Love
really the
that.
story of my life. And I believe that God was preparing
Yes.
my spirit to be able to hold the big vision of what I'm building now through all the times where I was like, oh, my life is truly the definition of odds stacked against me. Let's see what we can do.
Yes, I understand all of that.
I know you do.
I understand all of that. I had a conversation with a friend yesterday and we were talking about that. And I said, I asked God, why did I have to
Mm,
go through so much so
mhm,
young? Because I
mhm,
went through some stuff. And I asked the question because I was always asking questions.
mhm,
It's
mhm,
like,
mhm,
I was like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing because I was always asking questions.
mhm.
But I asked and the answer I got was, it's not about you.
Wow.
It's not about you. And I didn't even realize how deep that was when I got the answer. I was
Mm,
just in the midst of so much turmoil.
yes,
And I just was, for me, the first place that I'm going to go is God.
me too.
Because if they made us, then they
Hmm.
would have the answers.
Hmm.
And so I asked that question. I said, why? So young, you so much, because I
Hmm.
would have older women
Mm,
come in to me to get my wisdom. I'm 25 years old or something, and I would have 40 and 50 and 60-year-old women coming to get wisdom from me. And I'm
mm.
like, okay. But when God said that, I was like, okay, I'm all right then. But
Yes.
that let me know that, there's an impact that I'm supposed to make.
Mm.
Because there's no way you could go through all that hell and not make an impact.
And if we think about how true art is created in the world, it comes from somebody taking their pain and turning it into something that serves another person.
Yes.
How often do we sit here watching a motivational speaker who says, I started here, I got here? That hero's journey is something that we relate to in our own lives. No matter the
Yes.
size of it, we relate to overcoming overcoming
Yes.
odds stacked against it, being resilient, having faith, trusting, and becoming something.
Yes.
And I believe what's so beautiful about my journey, while, maybe to the average person, it might look like, oh, well, sounds like, she got here and she was this, she was that. And then she just went to New York and got all these jobs. Underneath that was an
Yeah.
extraordinary amount of adversity. But I believe that God gifted me with a natural gift of song. So that was almost in many ways the alchemical point that I could take all of that pain and turn it into something. And I think if
Yes.
we realize that God has given us all these natural gifts and abilities, and
Yes.
the beautiful part of it is that you can miss it if you're not looking right in front of you, you know? It's like, oh, well, I'm not that gifted. To the point about the extraordinary woman who does the braiding. We had Tammy and I had a conversation about this 19-year-old she had a podcast with who, taught people how to braid interracial girls' hair. And I thought it was so beautiful because she could have glazed right over that and said, oh, well, it's natural and easy and effortless for
Or
me.
I'll just
So
keep doing their hair
totally. Why would
instead
I
of
turn that into
saying,
something bigger?
right, instead of saying, you know what, I can help these women. Number
Exactly.
one. Number
Exactly.
two, I can teach them,
Yes.
so that they're able to do it. So
Hmm.
that, when the children come to see her, they don't look a hot mess.
Yes. Yes.
You
Instead of
know,
looking to me, for the answer, I
yeah,
offer them the solution and then they continue to be their own answers in their lives. And with singing, that was something that I believe God gifted me as an outlet because song is something that takes word and amplifies the healing. And through my childhood of addiction and divorce at a young age with my parents, and then struggling in traumatic environments, the music was that alchemical point for me to process my pain. And I
yes,
believe that natural gift was God's gift to me that says, hey, you're going to go through a lot, but music is going to continue to be that thing for you that is
yes,
always going to be that release point no matter what you go through.
yes. I
And
feel
so
the
for
same.
anyone who's listening, that's like, maybe I know I have a big purpose and I know that I'm meant to be a big spiritual entrepreneur, but I don't even like know what to do. I bet you it's like the sunglasses that are on the top of your head that you're looking for all around the house.
Or
What
the
feels
phone that's in your pocket, or
totally,
you're
you're like,
on the
where
phone.
is it? The
You're on the
keys.
phone.
Yeah, you're on the phone. Where's the phone, right? Like it likely is going to be the thing that you almost feel unworthy of because it's so natural.
Yes. Now, we can talk about that for sure because I see that with so many people and I've experienced it as well. Because it's
Mhm.
like things that come easy to you, you think, oh my God, you think everybody can do it,
Yes.
but it's not for everybody and everybody can do it. And that's the reason why people will pay you to do it, and
Yes.
it's like, wow, because I'm thinking that's, because people ask me and I'm like, that's simple. There's
Yeah.
nothing to that. That is so easy,
Hmm.
but no, that
Mm.
is the reason why. And the same thing with music. I got that with that same thing. Like
Mm.
music takes me places and it gets me out of a funk,
Yep.
it shifts my energy, and I laugh. I said when I used to go to church all the time, I would come home sometimes and even after church and feel, like I should have gotten something else out of it, but
Hmm.
I didn't.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And I would come home and I would just sing, you know, at the top of my lungs, and my kids would be like, Mommy, is everything okay? You all right? But I felt like at the time, I felt like if I just sing,
Mm.
it's going to help me,
Yes.
you know? So I can
Oh,
feel that that is the same type of
yes.
energy that you have in that.
Absolutely. It is still to this day
Yeah.
one of the greatest alchemical points for me. I think the only difference now is that in many ways it's still something I'm working on because it held so much. It turned into a career, and when it turns into a career, sometimes that pressure can become less about what it's doing for you and what it's going to offer than what it would offer the world. And when it's
Yes.
only about what offers the world and it's not about how the music has helped heal you or set you free in some way, then it becomes more about technique and brand and
Right.
performance and result than it does actually about the heart. And when I had my spiritual awakening on the cruise ship playing Mary Poppins, and that shift started to happen around becoming a spiritual entrepreneur, what was, I guess, the big aha for me was that I could take the voice and still give it voice, but now on my terms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And slowly but surely I've been reclaiming that back and going, fuck what the tone sounds like. Who cares what it looks like? Who cares if anybody hears it? What if it doesn't sound my best? I haven't sang in the same consistency over the last 6 years since my awakening. And yet I feel more liberated than ever because it's not about how my muscles aren't the same and I can't hit the same range. It's about the fact that song is song is song is song is song. And artist is artist is artist is artist. And that is what matters now instead of, okay, well, I can't let that live while I'm also trying to live in result.
Yeah. That is exactly, that is. That's exactly because it just it's the part of that journey,
Hmm.
that we're on,
Yes.
and it's a part of, we can use this also to help people that experience the same because
Mhm.
lots of people are going through that same thing. I was watching Taraji
Who's that?
Henson. She's the girl that played what did she play recently? Tyler Perry movies. I can
Okay.
do I can do bad all by myself is when I that came to my head. But
Mm.
she played something recently. I can't think of it. Anyway, she's an actress.
Mm.
She said that. She said, she said you have to because they were talking to her about because she actually had a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And I can tell by the things that she was saying. And
Mm.
she was like, you have to, honor yourself and honor where you are in your life and
Mm.
don't allow people to push you. And she was like, certain roles, she was like, I refuse to take.
Mm.
She said, because they're not going to honor anything in me and in
Mm.
my life. And and they're not going to help people. She's like, I'm not taking that type of role. She was like, so I don't take those. So she's
Mm.
like, I put a lot of thought into the type of roles that I take, because I want to project, a certain image to the people, and not, she's like, and not in a, and she was going into that. She was like, not in a way that like, how they look at things and all that stuff. She's like, no, I want to make an impact. I want to help
Mhm.
people, change
Mhm.
the world and this and that. And I was like, wow, now that is awesome. And it's a novel thing because how often do you hear that?
Yes.
And I was
Yes.
like, wow,
Mm.
because I mean, it's so much chaos in the world right now
Mhm.
that this work that we are doing, and even if you're in a place, and I want to say this to the audience, even if you're in a place where you haven't started doing anything, but you feel the call, you're having an awakening or two or
Mhm.
five,
Yeah. Yep. True
whatever
that.
it takes,
Yep.
just know that you can do this. You can do this. If God is calling you to this place, you can do it. It means you can
Yes.
do it.
I actually just gave a piece of advice to a friend of mine who very is on the path that we are on. And we're all just in different places trying to get home. And I think home is with God,
Exactly.
you know? And I
Yes.
said to her, I think when you're doing something that is on the right path, I think doubt is a natural byproduct.
Yes.
When you're not on your right path, I think that's when the spirit of confusion takes over.
Yes.
I think we need to understand that confusion and doubt are different things, and that doubt is a natural byproduct of being called to a bigger level of courage or bravery or insight or direction. And
Yes.
when you feel confused, it's because some part of you is looking to the external world and not quiet enough with whatever's going on in your internal experience. You can't hear the spirit of God. You can't hear your own intuition. You can't hear your benevolent teams of spirit because you are projecting onto the world, I need clarity. I need
Yes.
clarity. I need an answer. I need clarity. Instead of internalizing that and say, what is that clarity? What is that
Yes.
peace that I'm looking for? What is the truth for me? And so, for those of you who are listening that are like, I don't know what direction I want to go in. I bet you do. You're probably just doubting it. And to our point earlier, it's probably right in front of you, and you're just probably not focusing on it because you're still looking in the world outside of you to try to give you that clarity. And I encourage you to maybe sit a little bit more deeper, longer with yourself in quiet contemplation and ask yourself, what are some of my natural gifts that I have that people just
Yeah.
naturally come to me for already?
Yes.
Right? What are those
Because
things
we
that
all
people are
have them.
naturally? Totally, people are probably already life coaches, and it just happens to be their mother. A lot of
Right.
times the signs are there. You're already doing the things. And so the more you sit in quiet contemplation, the more you're going to feel the spirit of clarity. And when you feel that spirit of clarity, then you feel the next step that comes in, and then you feel the doubt and you go, oh my God, but what if I can't? What if it doesn't work? And that's when you know you're on the right path.
That is so, 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 so good.
Isn't that juicy? When I thought about it that way, I
So
was like,
good.
oh, that's it. Because so many people get caught in doubt and they go, what if it's not working? What if it doesn't work out? What if I make this investment and I lose it all? What if nobody cares? What if nobody listens? And you forget that the only person that actually matters in the audience is you and God. And if you're being called to something and you're feeling that spirit of clarity about whatever that is, when you follow that, and you feel doubt, that is, in my opinion, a direct confirmation that what
Yes.
you are doing is right, safe, and true for your assignment on earth. So follow that, follow those doubts, follow those pieces that are like, oh, what if it doesn't? And how about this? And what about this? Because that is an indication that you're being courageous.
Yes. I just spoke that in the pool. I was in the hot tub. And I said that. I said, I said, when it feels like that, it's
Mm-hmm.
when you know you're in the right place.
100%.
I said, and you just have to just keep going.
Yes.
You just keep going. And sometimes I believe that people stop right before the miracle happens, right
Oh,
before the
yeah.
magic opens up.
There's a story about, and I'm going to butcher it, so I'm going to try to shave it down in the best way I remember it. But there was this man that was digging for gold, and he was digging and digging and digging and digging and digging, and he didn't find it. And so he gave up. And then the next man came and started digging, but he already went into the hole that the other man was digging, and he went over just a few inches and found the gold. And if that man would have just not given up and trusted in all that he had already dug, and then maybe opened a bit more, he would have hit the gold. Instead, he was trying to go deep, 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 deep. Why not? Why not? Oh, I'm
Instead of
impatient. Oh, I'm
spreading out.
frustrated. And then no gold. And then the next man just went in, didn't have to go too far, and just opened up a little bit, and there was the gold.
So he was preparing the soil and he didn't realize it.
Precisely.
It's
There's also a saying
like
about how it,
casino. You know,
sorry?
I said it's like the casino.
Wait, tell me more about that.
You go to the casino and you play in the slots and you put in all your stuff in and you walk away and then somebody else comes up and they put, maybe $1 in and they win the jackpot because,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, there's this saying a mentor taught me about, and she calls it pineapple season is coming. And it's
Oh,
because it takes 18 months to make a pineapple.
oh,
And you can only, I think it's, you can only make two pineapples from one batch. So by the time the second pineapple comes, you're done. You have to build a whole new thing for pineapples to come. It takes 18 months to make pineapples.
oh.
And the entire time we're thinking, where's our pineapple? When is my pineapple coming? Is pineapple season here? Screw it. If the first person who ever planted pineapples didn't wait 18 months, they never would have known that pineapples were coming. But they didn't know at the time that it took 18 months. They just thought, I'm going to keep watering it and tending to it and taking care of it and making sure that hopefully the pineapples grow at some point. So it's like we have to stay dedicated to the consistent watering, not leaving it because we don't think it's coming, or just giving it to the universe and not doing the due diligence to water it and tend to it and pray to it and thank it consistently. And then next thing you know, 18 months later, you go, whoa, pineapple season is here.
God, that is an amazing, amazing analogy
Yeah.
because you think about it, it's like, and I tell people regarding like I tell my kids, I say, I plant seeds. I said, I'm not going to tell you what to do because you're grown.
Mhm.
And I put the wisdom that I needed to put in you
Mhm.
as you were growing up. I said,
Mhm.
so what I do now is I plant a seed. And I
Mhm.
say, hey, you ever thought about this? Maybe you should think about that. What do you think? And then I leave it alone.
Mhm.
Let it grow.
Yes, let it grow
Yeah.
and know that they will tend to it if they're meant to tend to it. And if it's meant to
Yes.
become something extraordinary, then you know that you planted that mustard seed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
I,
think
I think we
sometimes
hold on too close.
we do, and we
We
become
hold things.
impatient when it doesn't look like it's
Yes.
happening. But
Yes.
in truth, it's the little steps. Like,
Yes.
I'm so proud of me for watering every day for an entire week. I'm
Yes.
so proud of me for showing up and praying for it. I'm so proud of who I'm becoming in the process of watching the pineapple coming. I'm so proud of who I've been. It's been now 6 months and I've been praying and wishing and putting in the effort, showing up consistently, even though it doesn't look like the pineapple's coming at all, like there's not even anything out of the soil. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh, a shoot. I'm so proud of who I've become. But I think a lot of times we look to where we are and where we want to go, and that gap feels too wide.
And then we look at other people
Oh, and then we look at other
and
people.
we're like, oh, well, they got 100,000 followers on YouTube. And you're
Yes.
like, yeah, but they've been doing it for 10 years.
Yes. Their pineapple season has come, and then they
Yeah.
lost their pineapple, and then a new pineapple came. It's like they were on their own journey, and their
Right.
own journey just happened a lot of times to build anything true in God. In my experience, it doesn't happen very quickly.
No.
Because God is about the becoming. You know, there's a saying that it's a heavenly road to hell and a hell road to heaven. It ain't that the fucking truth. Like,
It
part of my
is.
French, but it's like, it is not easy to be obedient to your path. And it does not happen overnight because I believe that God is an extraordinary map to stay connected to why we are here. And I believe that we have to become that person
That
before we
is,
attract.
I was gonna say that is the thing. It's funny that you say that because that is one of the programs that I'm working on in a book I'm writing because it's I got this revelation that if we can align energetically
Mm,
to whatever it is that we're trying to attract, the person, the you know, the significant other, whatever, if we can align,
mhm,
to that and become
mhm.
that, then we can attract that. Because I did a whole playlist on aligning to love because people, I said, you keep running around and you're getting the same person, the same energy.
Mm,
You
mm,
go here, and then you wonder why this one is just like the other one. Because it's you. You're not in alignment. And so I told somebody, I said, I did this. I said, because I sat down and I
mm,
looked at my life and I said, you know what? I did this. I said, because my starter was way different than my professional.
mm,
I mean, honestly, like a whole 180 degrees different, and I'm like, wow. And so and people were asking me, well, how'd you do that? I'm like, you know what? I said, I started loving on me. And I became what I was seeking to attract, and I was like, but and I did work. I wrote things down. I did mirror work. There were things, tools and
mhm.
tips, and ways to do that. And it's like, wow, So when you said that, I was like, dang, is she like tapping into my brain?
I can't even tell you how often I hear, it's so funny you say that because dot, dot, dot. Like, if I could make a shirt that says a psychic on a day-to-day basis, how often she hears, he hears, they hear.
Not a bad
Funny.
idea.
Would you buy my shirt, guys? Would you buy my merch?
Right? Definitely, because that would be awesome. I'm like, yeah, because I'm sitting there like, wow, she said that.
Hmm.
But yeah, and that's true.
Mm,
It's like if we can actually, put ourselves in that space where we can become whatever it is that we are looking for, whoever it is, and the thing is it's easier than people think,
mhm.
but it just takes time, discipline,
Yes.
practice, being
Yes.
open to receive.
Well, I mean, being open to receive is such a complex thing for people who, one, don't know what receiving feels like. They don't know what feeling good feels like. They don't know what feeling in acceptance feels like. They don't know what feeling trust feels like. And
Yes.
so it's been so ingrained in society to have a condition and a transaction for everything.
Yes.
But we don't know how to receive things because most of the time we're like, I just want more of that thing. So I want more of that thing. So then I'll feel good. I want more of that. If I once I have my partner, then I'll feel good instead of, but if I feel good right now, then won't I attract a partner that feels good?
Yes.
And if I find acceptance in where I'm at now, then when I have everything I want, will I find acceptance? You know, I built $1 million business in 2 years just to realize that I was empty. But then I built a business full on God and I've made millions since. And now I'm full plus overflow of finances. So similar to your point about, different partners and not changing yourself. And then when you don't change yourself, you wonder why you continue to attract, the same things. We have to, if we want to live a life of what we desire in the world and become the kind of spiritual entrepreneurs we desire to be, it starts with us
Yeah.
going, how do I feel? How can I give myself more of what I feel? If I want money and I'm associating money with freedom, am I free right now? Are
Right.
my behaviors, do I feel free? Do I truly, in my behaviors, act as if I'm free? And 9 times out of 10, people are going to say no. If they're ready to be radical and honest with themselves, their answer is going to be no. I'm sitting here scrolling on social media for 10 hours wondering why I am not rich. You know, I'm
Where?
sitting I'm sitting in toxic relationships and I'm wondering why I haven't attracted my prince or why my partner hasn't decided one day to stop being a narcissist. It's like, You got to stop being an empath if you don't want to attract your match, which is a narcissist. Like, you got to do the work. So I think, in especially as spiritual entrepreneurs and those that are, in my opinion, really deeply, honestly inclined to do good work and help people. We are
Yes.
here to serve. We are here to help people heal. The best healers that we will ever be are the healers that are deeply nourished and in love and deeply cared
Yes.
for
Yes.
themselves, right? Otherwise, I don't believe that in truth we can ever fully be in integrity.
No.
Because if I'm unloved, if I'm not sleeping well, if I'm not eating well, if I'm not having good conversations, to your point about fun, right? If I'm not having a good life and then I'm doing all this service, I'm never going to be able to give the frequency through my conduit that actually helps people heal.
Yes.
And over time, that integrity, lack of integrity, is going to show itself in my
Yeah.
character, in my reputation, and
Yeah.
ultimately the impact I'm meant to make.
Yes.
So it's better to ask ourselves and be honest with ourselves. Where am I not being honest about where I'm not a match for what I desire?
Yes.
And then how
And
can I give myself that?
that's challenging,
Oh, it's
because
confronting.
we because you have to confront yourself. It's like you got to look in the mirror.
Yeah. I like to say that there's three stages to this because people go, I don't know how to even start to love myself. And I said, okay, that's fine. But can you start with maybe forgiveness?
Yes.
If you start with forgiveness, I forgive myself for the choices that I've made because you can't hold resentment and love at the same time. You have
Yes.
to choose forgiveness. I forgive myself for grabbing a beer first thing in the morning or not going to the gym or not giving myself what I need.
Whatever,
Like,
right? Yeah.
whatever it is, insert, like, I forgive. Second part of this is acceptance
Yes.
because you can you can accept something that you don't love. For example, to your point about menopause, we were having a conversation beforehand. It's like you
Yes.
don't have to love it in order to accept it. It's like, well, this is the life cycle that I'm at.
Right.
This is where I'm at, and I forgive my body. I forgive my body and I accept my body for where it's at in this evolutionary cycle of its life. And I find once we pass through those two doors, then love is so much easier to find
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
feel,
I agree.
right? But if we go, God, I don't like, self-love feels like something that, Jay Shetty or Tony Robbins tells me, but not something that I understand on a body-based level. It's like, sounds good, bro. Like, I'll just get right to that. Let me
Yeah,
read all
that's
these
great. I
self-help
love
books.
that.
Let me write all these affirmations, but deep down, I'm thinking I hate myself.
Right.
Like, let me hope my life changes. Instead of, can I forgive whatever choices I've made up until this point, or at least one that I feel like I can grab today? Because
Yeah.
every day might be different. And the next one, what can I accept in myself today? What can I accept in my reality today?
Yes.
And that can be big or small depending on where your resistance is on any given day. And then
Yes.
finally, we'll realize is like love, the doors open, and suddenly love is something that you can grab in your hands, but mainly in your heart.
Yes.
So that those three doors, and that is not easy, to your point. That is not easy to go, where have I been living in resentment? Where is
Mm-mm.
my heart hardened? Where am
Right.
I not allowing myself to pass through the threshold of forgiveness? Then
Yeah.
where am I not accepting the reality? Where am I resisting it? Where am I frustrated? Where am I insert? Can I accept it? Oh, can I accept that I manifested this relationship? Can I accept that I am not in a place in my business where I want to be? And when you can go, yeah, you know what, I can because it is. It
See, but that's
is.
the first step is accountability, and that's the
100%.
thing. That's the
Yes.
thing that people don't, they don't want to deal with. It's
Yes.
like they don't want to be accountable.
No.
We live in a society where, they throw people away and then they don't want to be accountable.
Mhm.
Nobody wants, and then they don't want to wait either.
Mm.
Heaven forbid, we're in a microwave society. I mean, you
Fast and easy.
want your food in 30 seconds.
Yes.
And if it takes longer than 2 minutes, or if you go to a drive-through at a restaurant or something, and it takes them more than 5 minutes, you're like, well, this is supposed to be fast food. I mean, where's my food? At least in America.
Yep. Well, the funny thing is, though, is that when you put your vegetables in a microwave, it sucks out all the nutrients. Just like if you put yourself inside of a Tesla, you're technically inside of a microwave.
Oh, whoa, oh.
Yeah. Because it's all radiation inside of the Tesla. So it's very similar where you're like, oh, wait,
But it should
if
be going out of business soon. Oh, did I say
oh, oh,
that?
part two coming live, right? Because the truth is when it's in a microwave, all the nutrients get sucked out of it in the same way that when you want it fast, all of the depth of the lesson and who you get to become gets sucked out of it. So you can take
Yes.
the shortcut if you want, take it in 30 seconds, but then you're going to have to, at some point, if you want
Gonna
whatever you
pay.
desire, you're going to have to get the nutrients. You're going to have to, from the seed, get planted into the earth, get received by the earth, grow, develop, prosper, and then be able through the soil before anybody else sees it, sprout, right? And then grow tall because the greater the root, the greater the rise. So you need to build those strong roots, build the nutrients, and then the blessings. But people are like, okay, wait, so I manifested for like 3 days and I'm really proud of myself. So, like, where's my $1 million? You know, like, where is it? I'm a generational curse breaker. It's like, you want to break generational curses, you want to do this work, you got to understand you have to be trusted with this level of
Oh yeah.
power, of responsibility, of insight and impact in the world. And so less microwave, more slow cooker.
Oh yeah, because people are quick to say, "Oh, I did the 5-5-5 method, or the 3-6-9 method, or the 7-7-7 method, or whatever." And yeah, I didn't get the job. You're like, maybe that wasn't the way to go about that. But
Yes.
hey, I'm not here to judge.
Well, when we trust for a condition, then it's not really trust, right? It's like, I'm going to trust so that I get everything I ask for. And if I don't get what I ask for, then I'm mad at you, God. And let me tell you, that used to be a story in my life. It was like, why am I the one that's suffering, God? I've done all of this healing work and you still give me pennies. What's wrong with you? Because I'm doing all the work. And then through maturation and self-realization, it was like, maybe I'm only trusting when I'm expecting something from the world. And then
Hmm.
what would it look like if I trusted because I trust the world? What a different energy where it's like, I trust people. I trust people to make the right decision for themselves. I trust myself that I'll make the right decision when it's time, and when it's not time, I won't. Can I actually feel trust?
Yeah.
Not, I will only trust if I do the 777 method and get what
Right.
I want, which then validates the part of me that needs something outside of me so that I feel better about myself, about the fact that I don't feel better about myself. But if I get that thing, then maybe I'll feel better about myself. Like, it's a perpetual loop. And ultimately, we break that by saying, hey, radical accountability, forgive, accept. And then there's somehow we feel love.
Yes. 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 Oh my God.
We were here for an episode of a podcast, and now we went to a sermon.
We did, but it's good. It's so good. We're gonna land this plane.
Yes.
So let the people know if there's any last words or any last things that you want to say, and then share where they can connect with you. And then I have one last question that I ask all my guests.
Hmm. Oh, I love that, Tammy. For anyone who's listening that caught this whole conversation, I think the big piece that we were kind of theming into this conversation is trust that when the odds are stacked against you and you feel doubt, that it's the right track.
Yes.
And trust who you're becoming in the process.
Yes.
And it might feel like micro steps, but then one day there's a great saying by Steve Jobs that says, you can't count the dots forward, you can only count them backwards.
Yes.
And so you might not know right now what the next steps are going to look like, but they feel right. And if they feel right, then trust what feels right. And then you're going to look back and go, oh, you wonder how you did it until you wonder how it happened. You're like, and now suddenly I'm here. And at least I got here by being here. And
Yes.
so trust your path and know that where you are and where you're meant to be, they're not that far away from each other, but they start in the here. So you can find me on Victoria Pippo on Instagram, so Pippo. You can find me on my website at victoriapippoinc.com. And then if you're anything like Tammy, Tammy found me briefly and then found me because I showed up on YouTube. So maybe just trust the universal algorithm to find me, say, oh, that was a really great podcast. Show me if I'm meant to connect with Victoria, and then see where we end up.
That's powerful. I love it. I love it. So my question is, if you could change anything in the world, what would that be and why? I've only got the same answer, I think twice in about 200 interviews.
You've only got the same answer twice in 200 interviews.
Hmm.
Wow, I kind of love that because now that it just shows that everybody in the world is on a mission to try to do something
Yes.
unique, and
Yes.
they're changing something in the world. My
Yes.
first answer was, interestingly enough, I wanted to say world peace.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that I desire a world that has peace, but if I go a little bit deeper than that, the one thing I want to change in the world and that I would love to see in the world is people reclaiming their sovereignty.
Mm, okay.
Remembering that they're divine beings of God, that they are creators, that they don't need anything outside of them, that every connection they want in the world is as simple as sitting on your butt, feeling the discomfort, and asking the right questions. Probably the most simple and complex thing you will ever do. So I think if I could change anything, it would be outsourcing.
Yes.
Outsourcing the divine, outsourcing God. And what I'd love to offer the world is a world where people truly know themselves, know the power that they are, and know that they are sovereign beings of source creation.
Yes. That is that. I've not gotten that answer, and that's powerful.
Wow.
You did it.
I was trying to be different, you guys. But no,
You
seriously, that is
are. It was
definitely, that would
so
have been my answer
powerful.
anyway.
So powerful. I mean, the thought of that is like, wow, yes. If we could just own ourselves,
Yes.
and I think about that so often. I'm like, if we could just own ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I tell myself that daily. I'm like, just own you.
Mm-hmm. Be
And
you.
don't
Mm-hmm.
worry about, what anybody else is doing. Focus on the divine,
Mm.
and what your message and what it is that you are supposed to do or be, in this
Yes.
world.
Well, if a flute tried to be a drum, that would be a very odd world.
Right?
And if a drum tried to be a flute, that would also be a very weird world. You know, you are an instrument of the divine, and the divine is playing something through you
Yes.
naturally. And if you can listen to that and follow that and trust that and stay obedient in that, next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, I'm a spiritual entrepreneur, man. And I'm helping people in extraordinary ways. And so
Yes,
the
that's
less you
powerful.
outsource, the faster you can learn what instrument God is playing through you and how to play it.
I hope y'all heard that because that was so intense.
Yeah, that was a good one, guys. That was a good one. We should quote that.
It was so good. I'm like, wow, I can't wait to watch this again.
Oh, this is going to be a good one, you guys. You need this one when you're laying in
So,
bed before. Yeah.
if you want to connect with Victoria, you can look at the show notes. Her details and her links and all that stuff will be in there. So that definitely click on her and binge her like I did because I went on YouTube and I was like, she has some good stuff. Let me listen, because you just popped up and I was like, okay, yeah, that's what's up. So your algorithm can do that for you. So I think
Mhm.
that's amazing. And I just am so grateful that you came. And I'm just loving, the time that we've spent in the energy. We definitely have to do this again.
If you want a part two, I'm definitely down to do that. I would love that. And if your audience receives that, I think that'd be amazing.
Oh yeah, I got a couple of people that want part twos, and I want them to come, and you're one of them. So
Thank you.
definitely, I'll put you on my list, and we'll circle back around and
Sounds
do it
great.
again. It's amazing. So we thank you for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah. It's been an amazing, amazing, amazing show, and I know I say this every time, but it really is true because sometimes the energy that people have it translates in the screen, and we can see
Mhm.
it.
Yes.
So I'm so excited. This has been just amazing. My heart is just so full. I'm ready to go take a nap now.
Yeah, I second that.
So we are so blessed that, you've watched us or listened to us wherever you are, because this show is on all the podcast places. It's on YouTube as well. So you can listen to it and watch it on YouTube. So I just am so, so appreciative and I'm so grateful.
Mhm.
And so we are so grateful that you joined us on Straight Outta Savannah.
Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate you so much.
You are so welcome. I have been just loving this. We just had an amazing conversation with Victoria Pippo. She is the most extraordinary young lady that I have interviewed in the last few weeks. And so I was so excited to listen to all of the amazing wisdom that she shared. So if you are interested in connecting with her, all of her details will be in the show notes. She is such a beautiful, beautiful spirit, and I absolutely loved her energy. So definitely listen to her. We had so many conversations today. So definitely check it out. So, again, thank you so much for listening or watching Straight Out of Savannah. And if you are a spiritual entrepreneur and you would like to come on the show, come on. I am looking for sponsors. So, if you are in any area of spirituality and you would like for me to sponsor your stuff, send me a message, reach out to me. Any of the socials, you can go on my stand store as well. So I'm just so grateful, so grateful. Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Out of Savannah. Bye now.